What's up, Gut Gang? Brendan here. Time for a book review. I haven't done a book review in a very, very long time. For those that have been following me for a while, you've probably seen some of my book reviews. It's just one of the ways that I like to retain the information that I've read. I read it, I summarize it, and then I share it with you. So the book that I chose is Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pelz. A Woman's Guide to Using the Healing Power of Fasting to Burn Fat, Boost Energy, and Balance Hormones. I saw Dr. Mindy on some YouTube and Instagram shorts, very, very compelled with what she was teaching. I like what she says a lot. And also, a huge percentage of my clients are women. And I incorporate fasting and intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating and many of the same fundamentals with nutrition. But understanding hormones, it's just a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different aspect. And I really wanted to get a woman's understanding and teachings behind this. So that's why I chose this book. So I can help other women. Now, who this book is not for, I'm going to be a little bit of a jerk, sarcastic jerk right now, but this book is only applicable to girls and women. So men who were born men but are transitioning into female lifestyle, it's not applicable because you don't have ovaries and you don't have the female endocrine system. So this is just for women. I had to say it. Oh, I had to say it. Anyways, here we go. Fast Like a Girl. Chapter 1 starts off with some alarming statistics. According to the CDC, 41% of women 21 years and older are considered obese. 45% have high blood pressure. 1 out of 2 will develop cancer in their families. 1 out of 5 will develop Alzheimer's. 1 out of 9 will develop type 2 diabetes. 1 out of 8 will develop thyroid problems. And that 80% of all autoimmune conditions, diseases, occur in women. And only 12% of Americans have metabolic flexibility. And we'll go into that a little bit later. Dr. Mindy explains why most women have a twisty path in their weight loss journey. She calls them the failed 5. So calorie restriction, poor food quality, constant cortisol surges, increasing toxic loads, and a one-size-fits-all approach. So through calorie restriction, the body develops somewhat of a set point. And when there are changes in these set points, it makes it very difficult and harder for women to lose weight and develop lean muscle. Spiking of cortisol initiates a cascade of other hormones through feedback loops. So elevated cortisol leads to a secondary stress hormone, and then elevated blood sugar is a result of elevated cortisol, which then ultimately just kills and dramatically drops sex hormones. Number 4, toxic loads. Dr. Mindy discusses obesogens, which are compounds found in various man-made chemicals, foods, care products, cleaners, cookwares, etc. These are known as endocrine disruptors. And what most people don't realize is that once absorbed in the body, through its infinite wisdom, these compounds are stored in the fat because the body doesn't want them to be absorbed in all other organs. So the body stores fat. And the more fat you've got, the more toxins that you've got, and vice versa. The more toxins that your body stores or is exposed to, the more fat it will develop. Humans have evolved over millions and millions of years. And these conditions of fast or famine, right, hunter-gatherer, created a genotype within the humans called a thrifty gene, which ultimately allowed us to adapt to fasting and feeding, right, optimizing to where we are today. The whole food situation, however, has significantly changed, and our bodies have remained somewhat still the same from, many, many years ago, millions of years ago, through an evolutionary standpoint. So earlier, she discusses metabolic flexibility, and that equals 2 systems, the ability to burn sugar and the ability to burn fats. Did you know that in 2019, the New England Journal of Medicine reviewed more than 85 studies involving fasting and concluded that fasting should be used as a first-line treatment for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative brain conditions, and cancer. Fasting also helps with anti-aging, along with pre- and post-surgery protocols. She then goes into a deep dive explaining what ketones are and how they function and what they do to our bodies and our brain. And ketones are very reparative in nature, and they have the power to regenerate damaged neurons. Ketones are also the preferred fuel source of our mitochondria. When ketones are present and sensed by the hypothalamus, the hormone ghrelin becomes decreased, ghrelin being the hormone for sort of initiating hunger. In addition to that, ketones increase GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter that is very calming for the brain and the body. She then dives into what autophagy is, which is, in my opinion, very, very fascinating. I love autophagy. Autophagy is a very, very healing process. Autophagy improves cellular resilience in 3 ways. It supports cellular detox, it repairs and removes of diseased cells. So what does autophagy mean? Well, it means self-eating. A point to understand, autophagy is an organic detox. And what that means is it aids in the removal of damaged organelles, proteins, oxidized particles, and unwanted pathogens. Now, you may have heard the term apoptosis, which means scheduled cell death. When someone is in a fasted state, they can initiate that process of destroying rogue cells. Fasting also helps with glycogen and insulin stores. It increases growth hormones. It helps reset dopamine pathways. It helps repair the immune system, improves the microbiome, and reduces the reoccurrence of cancer. Now, Dr. Pelz also later explains the 6 different types of fasting types. So there's intermittent fasting, autophagy fasting, gut reset fasting, fat burner fasting, dopamine reset fasting, and finally, immune reset fasting. One of the ongoing themes throughout this book is the discussion of hormones. On page 33, she references PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that the root cause of this condition is the dysfunction of autophagy, PCOS. So toxic overload, being overweight, insulin resistance, hormone imbalance, high lipids, high cortisol, high blood sugar, and basically systemic inflammation. This is also like Syndrome X. So the section about gut healing, obviously I got quite excited about that, goes without saying. The gut fasting protocol is very, very gut healing. It helps address SIBO through balancing the microbiome diversity. Consequently, so many women have disrupted gut microbiome because of the birth control pill. And so by strategic fasting, it can dramatically help with their guts. Also, there are so many factors to consider. Now, here are some more benefits that come along with 6 different types of fasting. It releases stored sugars. It helps break down the barriers of weight loss resistance. It helps reduce does reduce cortisol. It reduces cholesterol. It reboots dopamine. It helps lower anxiety. It helps with chronic conditions. It improves musculoskeletal injuries, turns back or it slows down the aging clock. It offers long-lasting weight loss, and it powers up memory. And finally, mobilizes toxins. Now, the goal through strategic fasting is to achieve not just autophagy, but something also called mTOR. But you can't be in both at the same time. One is cell destruction, and the other one builds up muscle in your body. So mTOR helps build hormone production, helps build muscle, and can even rebuild the beta cells of the pancreas responsible for the production of insulin. Chapter 4 is where she gets really, really into some awesome stuff. She breaks the menstrual cycle down into sections. Days 1 through 10, this is where some hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are at their lowest. Days 11 through 15, days 16 through 18, and days 19 finally through the bleed. Of these times, there are specific times when a girl should focus on certain types of exercises, certain tasks and activities, where in contrast, there are other times when she should acknowledge her hormones and that these are the times for other obligations and other tasks. These hormones fluctuate for reasons. So too should daily activities to honor these fluctuations. Days 11 through 15, for example, could be a good time to increase strength training workouts to yield more muscle building. Now, there are phases within the month when long fasting is beneficial, and there are other times when fasting isn't recommended at all. So yes, fasting is greatly beneficial, but when you are strategic about it. One of the simple things to remember is that estrogen thrives when insulin is low. Progesterone thrives when cortisol is low. So what does that mean? It means the understanding what drives insulin and cortisol should be a point to further investigate and ultimately understand and implement into your lifestyle. Dr. Pelz later details the hormone hierarchy, which include oxytocin, cortisol, insulin, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. All have their place and are crucially required. It's the imbalance due to lifestyle which play a role on the imbalance of these systems. PCOS, infertility, menopause can all be better managed through this understanding. Now, there are 4 pillars to fasting like a girl. Number 1, identify your goals. Number 2, your fasting varies depending on lengths. Number 3, varying your choices of foods and your choices of fasting. And number 4, surrounding yourself with a supportive community. And finally, there are also principles around food. So number 1, food ingredients matter. Number 2, glycemic load matters. And number 3, cycling matters, right? Alternating your different types and strategies around food. Chapter 4, she discusses the fasting cycle. Now, these are the cycles within the month, right? So there's the power phase, days 1 through 10 and days 16 through 19. And then she goes into the suggested fasting lengths, the foods, the hormones to focus on, and ultimately what areas of the body are healing in that power phase. And then there's the manifestation phase, which are days 11 through 15. And again, she goes into the suggested fasting times, the optimal foods, the hormones to focus on, and what's happening within the body. And then finally, there's the nurture phase, which is days 20 through until the end of your period. She then goes into the suggested fasting times, right? The optimal foods, the hormones, and the healing focus. Finally, Dr. Pelz goes into strategies on how to break a fast, how to combat and face challenges during a fast, what foods and drinks ultimately won't break your fast and what will break your fast, as well as a ton of resources, including recipes in the book. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars because it's so simple to read. You can learn it and you can apply it. Literally, you've got a blueprint in this book that you can implement right away. Now, of course, everyone's different. Everyone is biochemically different. Everyone's got different goals. But if you're new to fasting, or if you have been fasting, but you want to level up or hone in on what it is that you're working towards, this book will greatly assist your efforts. I have no doubt. I'm so glad that I read it. I know that I'll be able to pass on these teachings to my clients and really help and enhance their approaches. And again, if you're looking to just learn more, every single woman, born woman, and man for that matter, should read this book, get an understanding of how the intricacies and the beauty of the hormonal cycle each month, right? It's so incredible, the female body. So with all that being said, Dr. Mindy Pelz, Fast Like a Girl, highly recommend it. Great, great book. 5 stars. Gut Whisperer out.